Welcome to Global Investment Voice, where we explore investment migration issues and opportunities from around the world. With a special focus on the U.S. EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program, we'll also cover citizenship and residency by investment programs from around the globe. If you're an investor, fund manager, developer, or enterprising entrepreneur and want to get the most out of these global investment migration programs, you have come to the right place. I'm Mark Deal, and I'll be your co-host on this journey. I'm joined by your host attorneys Mona Shaw and Rebecca Singh, as well as other investment migration leaders from around the world. So let's get into Global Investment Voice. Mona, rich Americans prefer Harris over Trump, but want a second passport no matter who wins. Recently conducted survey shows. That's a pretty bizarre title. What's that all about?
After so many years of doing this show, yes. I think that when I saw that news title, I thought, wow, we have to have the author talk about this and see and really delve into this and see what is going on. But Mark, as the US really nears our election for the 47th President of the United States, we are coming up with articles of this nature. It's amazing. I don't think we've ever seen this before. So today, to discuss this article and the situation as a global citizen, I don't think we could have a better set of guests.
You're right, Mona. That's a pretty interesting title. And to help us explore this topic, we have a couple of guest speakers on today's episode of Global Investment Voice. First up, we have Armand Arton, founder of Arton Capital, advises on global residency and citizenship programs, where he focuses on facilitating global investment opportunities for high net worth individuals. Armand also established the Global Citizenship Forum, is involved with the World Economic Forum, as well as a Forbes Business Council. Now, joining him is a returning guest on Global Investment Voice. Welcome back, Sam Bayat. Sam is a Quebec licensed attorney with over 25 years of experience, specializes in corporate, immigration, and economic citizenship, and is founder of Bayat Legal Services based in Dubai. He advises globally on investment migration. Armand, Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back.
Gentlemen, wonderful to have you both. Now, I would say the US economy is one of the largest in the world as measured by nominal GDP. Why would citizens consider obtaining a second passport? This is something I'm going to just throw out to both of you.
Well, first of all, let's not say passport. Let's say nationality, because passport is one of the attributes of acquiring a nationality. So yes, many people are acquiring an alternative citizenship or several alternative citizenship these days.
Indeed, Sam, if I may add that the world has seen relocation of people going traditionally, I would say, from east to west and south to north. But in the last 25 years, we are realizing a completely new trend in the mobility, not only of normal migration, but really at the ultra high net worth level, the investment migrants. And that trend is all directional. We have Americans that want to live in Europe. We have Europeans who want to live in America or in Canada. We have Europeans who want to live in Dubai. So the traditional countries from high risk with low quality of mobility passports want to have access to residency or citizenship in a better quality of life countries is no longer the 100% reality. I think we have a lifestyle choice, tax choices, and extreme polarization in politics that are pushing the people to relocate.
Armand, I understand that this newspaper had chosen to quote the surveys that the industry field that Armand, your company, put together, Arton Capital. And I believe another major one which was quoted was one by Henley and Partners. Can you tell us a little bit of how your company would conduct these type of surveys, first of all?
Yes, absolutely. We hired a specialized company with the specific parameters of what exactly the audience that would be surveyed is. And this was the methodology used was to screen responders who possessed at least of 1 million net worth, dollars of personal net worth. And 89% of these responded had actually between 1 and 5, and 11% had personal net worth above 5 million. So this was the audience, and it was all gender demographics across different states. So it was absolutely diversified pool of people that were questioned. And the question, as you know, was, would you relocate if Trump wins or if Harris wins, and for who would you vote? So that's the result that came out.
Well, as I said, which was quite amazing. Well, it was very interesting initially that so many rich Americans preferred Harris over Trump. And I believe the reason for that was stability.
Yeah, 53% of them said that they would vote for Harris of this group of people, and 42 for Trump. And 6% said that they're still unsure and undecided. Again, this is the question of taxation, of stability abroad and home that wonders and bothers a lot of these families, and how they project the next 4 years calling and living in America.
Well, we've been discussing geopolitical tensions, but I do think that there are two elements that perhaps have not been discovered or discussed as much. And one is, who is the new millionaire? Because we're not necessarily looking at people who are using Bank of Mom and Dad and the old money anymore, but we're looking at people who are perhaps they're self-made, the new crypto millionaire. Sam?
Well, the profile of people applying is diverse. Definitely, the nouveau riche or have a different mindset, which goes very much with the post-COVID mindset, where they see the world more accessible or ought to be more accessible to them. So they think differently in terms of they want to have access. And therefore, residency by investment programs allow them access much easier, and also obtaining alternative citizenship, a second citizenship or a third citizenship is also allowing them better mobility, as Armand was saying earlier. I guess the mindset of this group of new millionaires is to be a global citizen. And in a post-COVID mindset where people suffered, where they couldn't have access, now they want to be able to go anywhere.
Armand, do you feel that there is this new COVID mindset with the new young millionaire, for example?
I think the COVID definitely accelerated the thought of fact that even with a great passport, like the Americans, since 2020 until 22, you were not really able to enter Europe. And that frustration created really an awakening for the first time that the almighty, powerful American passport cannot get you to Europe. And that created, I would say, the biggest wave of applicants for residency in Portugal, Greece, Spain, Italy, as countries where lifestyle and acquisitions of second home matched with a residency that increases that access, this mobility for Americans became a new reality.
This also gave rise to the Caribbean citizenship, which they had access to China and Russia visa-free. For example, Grenada, Dominica, where they can access Russia and China without a visa. That also was another awakening, because now if you have one of these citizenship, therefore with their passports, you can travel without a visa to China or Russia. Therefore, access to different countries much easier without a visa or without too much scrutiny. So it's the same trend.
Is that the same idea of people having multiple passports because they don't want their government to know where they've traveled, or they don't want where they're traveling to know that they are citizens of other countries?
I don't think it's a matter of hiding where you go. It's just a matter of, if you have to go to, for example, China for business, well, your only preoccupation then is just to find a ticket in a class that you want to buy. But an ordinary person will need to think about an invitation, finding a motive, and applying. Is it the right time? Like, for example, if there's a long weekend, if there's celebrations, you can't apply for a week or two. Or if there's too many demands, you have to wait several weeks to get a visa. But if you don't have a passport of Dominica, St. Kitts, or Grenada, well, if you want to go to China, your only preoccupation is to finding a way to get there, is the ticket. And of course, you're less questioned when you go in too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that people do understand nowadays that you can have multiple passports. I mean, the idea of being a global citizen is not something which we really entertained pre-2019 in the same way that we do today.
I disagree, Mona. I think that Mona, Sam, and myself, I think we're all products of migration, right? Our parents, our grandparents have relocated many years ago. in order to give us access to better life, better opportunities, better education, run away from genocides or a regime being overthrown and dramatical situations in our countries of origin. And the same way as our parents at the time wanted to give us the best access to the best schools, to have multiple degrees, to teach us how to start a life with a great credits rating. I think the same way today, when I look at my kids, I want to make sure that they have, beyond the legacy that I'm going to leave them, financial or education, is the freedom, and the freedom to choose and to be able to work, live anywhere in the world they want to, and never to worry about, can I do it because I don't have the permit or the passport or the residence. So my kids have 5 passports, and they can live literally in 37 countries, including North America, Europe, and Middle East, just with the residency and citizenship they have right now. I think that access of 90% of freedom of mobility of 180 countries, and the fact that they can really not only access for 3 months per year, but live and work and study in Europe, North America, and Middle East, is something that I want to leave them as a choice. If they want to use it, that's great. If they don't want to, they will pass it maybe to their kids as well. But I think this passing on to the next generation an extra freedom of choice is the greatest gift we can give.
I guess this is less barriers for our children. It gives them, as Armand said, a choice. And I think today to have a choice is richness.
So you don't see this phenomena slowing down or stopping at any point, even though a lot of European countries, the EU itself, have been frowning on this. I know that when we were getting the new legislation into the United States, there were quite a lot of congressional people who, A, didn't really understand the programs, and B, were like, oh, well, US citizen is not for sale. We don't want people with multiple passports. So there was that type of mindset as far as politics is concerned.
Well, my perspective on this industry, which is the investment migration programs, either residency or citizenship, is that it's going to grow and the demand is going to grow. The programs are going to grow. The mindset is already there that you can acquire these residency and citizenship programs passively without actively engaging in obtaining them. The industry is going to clean itself. There's going to be more transparency, better due diligence on applicants, better transfers of funds. So definitely there's a lot of cleaning up coming, but it's not going away because demand is going to rise and countries are going to have to get used to it.
And also, Armand, what you say does resonate. I mean, my parents emigrated to the United Kingdom in 1961. That was a long time ago now. And I don't think they ever expected that I would up and leave and come to the United States. So it is definitely something that this new generation and the generations going on do feel. But what I am also highly amazed about is how the new generation are thinking beyond the core market that our parents thought of. Our parents thought of Canada, the US, the UK. But this generation is thinking of other countries, Hungary, Lithuania, Panama.
I agree with Sam 100%. I think the demand for this product of investment migration can literally grow by 20% every year minimum. There is 60 million millionaires in the world today, certified by various agencies. And we have an annual base, no more than 20,000 people applying in all the jurisdictions through this residency or citizenship by investment. So you can imagine that if we're saying is no longer only the part of the 60 million that have a bad passport that live in the risky countries, it's even Americans and Europeans, then I would say it's 90% of this 60 million could be potentially our clients. We have a huge still growth within this industry. And let's not forget the Americans actually can also get European residency by descent. We're seeing triple more higher number of applicants of Americans who are going to Italy, to Ireland, to UK, to Portugal, to Spain, and based on their grandparents' 3 generation back origins, they can demand the citizenship without making an investment. So even though the European Commission says we're against the selling of it, there is 3 to 4 times higher number of people getting immediately the citizenship within making zero investment, zero, by the way, background checks, just because your grandmother came from Europe. I think it's the highest level of hypocrisy.
Armand, do you think the issue is where people are coming from or how they're migrating?
I think the problem is not about migration. They have a problem with rich people. And I think this is a trend we're seeing across the world, that pretty much you're already a criminal if you have that amount of money. And that's why when we say people who can invest and get residency and citizenship, immediately they're labeled with money laundering, corruption, tax evasion, where these people are absolutely not the profile. You know very well who our clients are. There are bad apples. I don't say that 100% of the clients are legitimate and that we cannot know what they will do in the future as well. There is a percentage of people who, once they have a citizenship, 3-4 years later commit a crime. Nobody has the crystal ball of predicting what somebody will do. But focusing on this negative rhetoric and using, I think, the fact that they're just rich and they shouldn't go in front of the line and we should let all the refugees first, I think is something is going to change with the right governments coming in power. Being that Trump, being that Orban or Meloni, or in Germany, the ADF or Le Pen, the extreme right who are very much against migration in general, I think they're much more reasonable that a wealthy migrant who follows the rules and bring money to their country. And with that money, all these right politicians gonna actually finance their own national interests. They're okay with that. And we're seeing Meloni having actually a great success with her golden Dolce Vita. She even doubled the investment amount. Orban just increased and relaunched the program as well. Actually, I do expect that Trump will do a revamp of the EB5 and saying, we don't like bad hombres, but we'd like to have rich people who follow the rules and come and invest in my country. So that will change in the next 10 years.
And it's the same trend everywhere. I think we've just passed a decade of leftist governments and there's a rebalancing. I mean, I had a breakfast about a month ago with the Minister of Immigration of Canada with a very small group of people. And I complained that how come we don't have business immigration programs in Canada? And I give 3 examples. They said, if the richest man wants to come to Canada today, we don't have a federal investor program. If the most successful entrepreneur ever, Colonel Sanders, was alive and wanted to migrate to Canada as an entrepreneur, well, we don't have an entrepreneur program to bring him in. And if we had the most successful self-employed, Ronaldo, wanted to migrate to Canada, well, we don't have a self-employed program to give him permanent residency. We're missing on a lot of opportunities. And I think the Western countries, with their poor immigration law, especially for business immigration, they've missed a lot. And it shows the mindset of the West that when they see successful people, they don't want to bring them in. They don't want to take them. But I think hopefully things are changing a little in the political scene, and business people or rich people are seeing it with a better perspective or better view.
Armand, Sam, what do you say about investors now wanting citizenship on these unusual type of countries, what we would consider unusual?
Well, you have to say that the countries you mentioned are part of Europe or Schengen. So the unusual thing is that it doesn't matter. You don't have to apply in France or Germany. If you want to live in France and Germany, you could apply through a residency in any of the 28 member states of Schengen. And that residency will give you the same right of movement as the right to live or work in any of the other member states. So that is a little bit like what we have in the states, in the 50 states in the US or the 10 provinces in Canada. So the freedom of movement and the rights within the Confederation or within the European Union makes that some of those countries have easier path, lower investment threshold. And this is what Europe wants to standardize, saying, guys, we're one block. We need to have the same investment levels. We need to have the same process. It's going to take some time, but eventually it will be, I would say, level up in the all 28 member states.
Armand, let me just add to your European thought. It's not just Schengen. I mean, look at Montenegro. It's still not in the Schengen zone, but when they had the citizenship by investment program that closed last year, which is supposed to be opening soon, I guess you know better because you were one of the 3 official agents promoting that program. A lot of people applied to Montenegro and it was extremely successful. So I think it's not just applying to programs which are within the Schengen zone, but also in the peripheral in Europe, they are successful too, very successful.
So I have a very important question for both of you. As these programs are expanding and the new countries are coming in, how do countries prevent unsavory consultants, for example, and people who don't really have a proper understanding or of how this works from selling those products. Because we are also seeing on the converse, as well as news headlines saying that certain consultants are cheating people and they're lying, they're taking money, running away, which is giving the whole industry of CBI or CPI a bad name.
Well, that's the unfortunate, but that's in any industry. I mean, bankers are not isolated from these issues, economic consultants, medical professionals. It's the whole thing. Our industry is not immune to bad apples and bad actors. But it seems that there's a great movement now that this space is going to improve and a lot of bad actors are going to be shunned out of these programs. So I guess what people should do is to do a little more research and to find the good ones. I mean, Arton Capital is truly a global company. They have great consultants, my company and yours, Mona. We research and we give proper opinion on bias, which are to our clients and prospects. The space is going to get clean, but in the meantime, people have to be a little more diligent and conduct a better survey of who is going to assist them. And of course, shows like the Expo, for example, in New York, that's a good place for people to go look for information and have a feel of who they want them to help or can help them better.
Great point, Sam. I think that our industry is also just arriving to a maturity. I think it's a young industry, I would say 25 years really in the making. It did attract a gold rush of all kinds of actors, beside of the demand and the supply side also. And I think we're just due for a regulation because we are regulated in Canada as a financial intermediary. So the same way as Royal Bank or BMO Nesbitt Burns, fully regulated broker dealer. So any of our clients in the Quebec Investor Program, they handle the money and we had a full responsibility as a bank. In a lot of the countries, there is a level of regulation where you need to be a local agent or licensed marketing agent. But as you know, 90% of the actors are just without any barriers of entry in today. And the technology created this, what I would call fly by night, people who would have a flashy website, good marketing, digital campaign, and they will trick the clients. And the clients will not do enough of homework to see, is that person regulated somewhere? Is it on the government website? Is there a vetting process for these actors and etc.? So I think we're getting there. But definitely there is a moment right now of cleanup, which I think for companies like ours, Mona, yours, and Sam's will be a good news because, again, we've been doing this for 25 years. Our name is on the wall, so we won't do anything to jeopardize the reputation and the name for our kids. But there's so many others who, as you know, are doing things with a very short sight of just making money and unfortunately breaking the dreams of so many people and increasing personal gains.
Well, this is important. Armand mentioned dreams, and I like that word because our industry is not just an ordinary industry. I always say to my staff, it's a matter of hearts. You can't just promise things to clients and then never to help them realize that because they have their family engaged. I mean, any person has a lawyer, an advisor, an accountant, and bad decisions are made in the business. And well, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But when it comes to migration, it's a matter of heart. You tell your kids, you tell your wife, we're migrating. It's difficult to go tell them after some time waiting that, oh, sorry, we were duped because we didn't choose the right consultant or we're going to a wrong country. It was a bad decision. These decisions need to be careful. People need to take proper care of thinking which program and who. So these are very crucial, these 2 points.
They are, Sam, because there is one thing. Although we talk about the world's millionaires, $1 million is not an awful lot of money nowadays. And we do have the millionaire person that come under a millionaire status. For example, in the United States, they will come under what's called accredited investor status, but they may not necessarily have a lot of money. It may be tied in assets and events, and they really can't afford to lose it if it's a bad program.
Armand, let me ask you a question that perhaps the other listeners are thinking to themselves. What is the Global Citizenship Forum?
Thank you, Mark. The Global Citizen Forum is a concept that we started 10 years ago and started as a gathering, a conference in Dubai in 2013, where we put together in the same room different stakeholders from the governments we work with to some of the clients, some of the due diligence companies, but quickly realized that I wanted to create a movement. I want to create actually a community that understands that global citizenship, it's a privilege and it's a way of life and it comes with responsibility. So while we put residency or citizenship in the disposal of very wealthy people, we want to also sensibilize them that there is a responsibility that comes with this extra mobility. And I personally believe, and it's my personal mission, that humanity can only progress through mobility. And anybody who wants to stop mobility is stopping human evolution. So the fact that people can travel more and they can live wherever they want is great. But we want to sensibilize them that there is 99% of others who dream exactly about the same thing, just don't have the means to invest and get it quickly as our clients. So we built that over the last 10 years as gatherings of minds with 49 different governments represented, 20 prime ministers, a lot of philanthropists who talked about the 5 pillars of global citizenship, that there is the governance of how countries are regulating this movement of people, security issues that comes with that increased mobility, the refugee topic, because we want to link that migration is a global phenomenon and it's going to only increase. And of course, climate change is going to multiply that mobility of people by force 3 to 4 times fold in the next 25 years. So if we're not ready to handle migration today, and we're calling that a crisis because we have 210 million that are living in a different place where they were born, that will be 1 billion by 2050. So we need to find a solution today so our kids can live with that extreme mobility and extreme climate change, pushing more people even to relocate. And this is what the Global Citizen is for. I'm talking about rebranding migration into a positive thing, sensibilizing the clients with multiple passports. They have a responsibility to think as a global citizen and to act like one.
Well, I'm glad you've explained that, Armand, because I read a lot about the event that you hosted in Montenegro. I think that was in 2018 or 2017, which had a number of Hollywood stars and notable key people as well who attended.
We were privileged by really having, as I said, thought leaders, celebrities. And by the way, they're really coming without being paid. They're really coming because they embrace the vision of a global citizenship. So from Kofi Annan to, of course, Wyclef Jean, who is always on our board and founder of the Fugees, talking about every other prominent entrepreneur. And we have the Hall of Fame of about 120 people that we really awards with a Global Citizen Award every year. We write articles in our magazine about it because we want to tell the stories of these great people and how they're transforming the world and how they have started as migrants.
Well, it's interesting because from an economic point of view, you have Davos of the rich country for the rich countries, and you have Cross Montana for less fortunate countries events. And I think Arton's Global Citizen Forum is interesting because I think it's one of the rare events that talks about global citizenship. And it's interesting because it brings a human side to all these globalization and mobility and our collective responsibility. You know, I've attended a few of the events that Armand organized, and I've always been amazed by the quality of people and the subjects which are discussed in these forums.
Well, I do believe that the appetite for golden visas and residency programs and citizenship is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think you both gentlemen are correct. We are going to see an expansion of this area.
I agree 100%. I think we're just at the beginning of a huge awakening of a wave of people who will realize that this is a way of life that they want to embrace. And as I said, give it as a legacy in their families for the next generation. So I think the demand will be phenomenal.
And if we talk about planning, I think the best planning for your children is, of course, a good education, but at the same time, mobility in the new world order. So yes, if they're educated, this is great. But if they have mobility, is even better. If you just leave them some money, I don't think it's going to compensate for the 2 factors of education and mobility.
Armand, are you planning another event anytime soon?
Yes, our next event, it's every year, is going to be on the 4th and 5th of December in Ras Al Khaimah, which is just 45 minutes from Dubai. We're hosted by the ruler of the Emirates, His Highness, who again loves the concept and has been hosting us for the last 3 years. And we have partnered with Prestel and Partners, which is a family office community, because we realize that a lot of these families around the world and their structures of family offices are involving more and more the residency and the citizenship into the estate planning of their families. So we're gathering a lot of specialists in the field of estate, tax planning, structures, and we'll of course have some celebrity surprise at the gala on the 4th, and we'll hope to raise money for one of our causes that every year changes, but it's always related to education, refugees, and the needs of people from different backgrounds.
Well, it's interesting that you mention family offices because we are seeing more and more family offices becoming involved in this industry, whether it is in attendance at events or whether it is through the raising of private equity funds for projects, businesses. Because remember, in the United States, it's purely private and businesses acquire investments through residency programs like this, the EB5, basically as a means of alternative financing, especially as interest rates from banks are so high.
Yeah, but the RCBI programs are more than that. They're investment vehicles where you can diversify your assets, but at the same time, you get something extra, which is the residency and the citizenship that can come without. And that in a very passive way where you don't need to actively engage yourself to obtain these.
Oh, but that's for the investor, Sam. I'm looking at the developer at this point. All the developments, for example, which have happened in the CBI countries in the Caribbean. So much of that development wouldn't have happened but for this program.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great way of building these countries as well. Today, for example, in St. Kitts, Park Hyatt is one of their top hotels that was built with investors' money.
Sam is absolutely right. The benefits are not only on the side of the investors and the families. They're absolutely a win-win formula in this industry with the hosting countries as well. While they're giving the residency and the citizenship, they're really gaining, of course, an immediate economic impact by the investment. But in Canada, which is a country built on migration and G7, the investment migration industry did actually in Quebec every year an economic analyst, a very prominent one who did research and proved that not only the immediate investment, but over the next 10 years, it was a 4 times fold of investment benefit in the second generation as well, who contributed to the countries. In the current residency and citizenship, we see less of relocation immediately. So I would say that there is less impact on the long term. But the immediate impact of the investment, and the smaller the countries are, the bigger the impact is. So if it's a 200 million that is invested in Canada today, it will not even show on the economic map as an impact. But 200 million in a Caribbean island with 1 million GDP, it's 20% of the economy. So you can imagine that this creates or transforms dramatically a country. The hurricane season, as you know, in the Caribbean every year affects millions of people. And this country, first line of financial security is the citizenship funds. Dominica has proven very well, and there was an article in the Washington Post about it last week. That's the first resource that the countries have before they receive from international aid, monetary, IMF and US and etc. It's the money from the CIP who is helping the people on the ground. From low income housing, from resilience against climate change, building schools, bridges, and of course, developing hospitalities and creating jobs that every European country right now is. They're the victims of their own success. It's such a level of economic development in the real estate in Portugal and Spain and Greece made it to actually creating a very high level of pricing that locals can no longer afford real estate. So sometimes the impact even goes beyond the projection and expectations.
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. And Sam, Armand, we could keep on talking about this for hours and hours. It's so many different facets, and we would just love to have you both back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Mona.
I would really like that. And I think it's a fascinating subject. We need to discuss it more and make people discover all the opportunities that residency and citizenship by investments can bring to them, especially in the new world order.
Thank you for being with us today on Global Investment Voice. Do you want to get the most out of global migration and citizenship opportunities? Then head on over to our website at globalinvestmentvoice.com. From there, you can easily search and stream from hundreds of podcast episodes, as well as stay current with the latest migration news and investment opportunities by joining our insider newsletter. The topics presented in this podcast are informational in nature only and are not to be taken as specific legal, financial, or investment advice. Mona, Rebecca, and their legal staff can be reached at mshawlaw.com or by calling their New York office at 212-233-7473.